Professional Dance Certificate program is basically a program geared to help young Indian dancers find a professional base so that they can compete on an international standard. For that, what we've done is we've broken up the program into 3 parts. The first part is a year and a half, where we basically introduce them to the various forms of dance, international dance and various levels. So it would be to introduce them to ballet, jazz, contemporary, urban, and of course things like dance notation, choreography, all of that would come in. In the second part, we would actually get them to specialize. It's like when you do your degree in college, you do your first year you do like many subjects, in your second year you drop a few subjects and start to specialize. Same way out here, in your second year you'll specialize, so that'll take a 1 year, 12 months for that. And then the last 6 months they will apprentice. They will apprentice either as dancers, teachers, choreographers, depending on which direction they want to specialize in. Or if neither of those 3, they might even go into administration and do all 4 and be artistic directors. A lot of people have asked me, why 3 years? Why not 2 years or 1 year, Who has the time to study dance for 2 years or 3 years? 1 year, year and a half, that should be it. But I think so, if you're studying dance, the time has come for you to study dance professionally. Like I did overseas, I studied professionally. It's not like 1 year and 2 years, it's like a degree. Like how overseas they have a BFA, which is a Bachelor of Fine Arts, which is 4 years. Similar to how you have a Bachelor of Arts here for 3 years, or a Bachelor of Science, BSc for 3 years. Okay. I'm thinking of that in a similar line, where you're studying it professionally, you're doing it like you would any other vocation. It's not a hobby. Overseas, normally, they do the BFA after having done 15 years of part-time education. So when you're little, you go to a community class and you do ballet. So we already have community classes, and we get a lot of kids, youngsters coming and doing that twice a week. But that's more seen as a hobby rather than as a profession. The idea of this is to then have those kids then come in and do a professional course, so they can actually then compete with the best overseas. Someone once told me, dance education is like the Chinese bamboo tree. For 2.5 years it grows like downwards into the earth and nothing shows on the surface, and in the last half year it suddenly shoots up to 100 feet. I think learning dance is like that. You spend years in foundation, and then finally people see you and they say, wow, you've hardly done anything, but it's actually been years of training. You learn physical and muscle memory and metaphysical memory. I think India's in a place right now where we can be represented internationally in international dance. Normally overseas, what usually goes out in terms of dance is either Bollywood or maybe Indian classical or Indian folk. There's a huge section of Indian dance, which is contemporary Indian dance, that is now, which is an international base, which is completely missing over there. And we are missing out on that whole thing. And that actually would introduce us to a lot of audiences who would actually align with our classical forms and our folk forms once they got a taste of an Indian dancing in their language. Also overseas, there's a lot of dance that 90% of professional dancers overseas are either trained in classical ballet or jazz, which are both structural styles. In India, there's hardly any existence of that. So that's one of the things that I want to do through the PDCP, is actually equip dancers technically and build that skeleton system for them technically, so that they can actually go out and dance overseas and not just do TV shows and stuff like that. For India to be well represented, I think internationally, we need to have technical dancers, and I've already started working on that. I started with Harada India Dance Theatre, which last year I did a project called the Going On Project, which was a year and a half, and that produced dancers which went on to tour the USA, and then which was 3 cities, New York, LA, San Francisco, and then from there they went on to tour Israel, and we did a couple of shows there. And this year, Navdhara has been invited to premiere in Tel Aviv, a new work that I'm choreographing, and for 5 shows it's Susan Dalal. Now that's a big deal, because the companies that perform out there are big companies like Ailey and Batsheva, and some of the top companies in the world perform on the stage. So to be invited there, I think we're kind of cutting some ground already, just being invited there for 5 days to premiere our work. It's humbling, but it's also, I think, very gratifying. It's a big move for us. Also, there's this notion, of Indians always going overseas to study. So I've always thought it'd be interesting if we had overseas students coming to India. So I've developed this technique called prana paint. You know, it's basically using breath, and it helps release the body. And I tried doing a couple of workshops when I was in Israel, and I did a workshop with Joffrey Ballet in New York, and they just really loved it. And I realized that that's a great opportunity for us to use the prana paint as a technique to help international dancers release their bodies and get more in touch with their metaphysical instrument. And so we started that, and we've been having a lot of international students coming in here, and that's been useful because the same international students give our Indian students a sense of what dance is like overseas, because through their bodies you can see what is expected in the studio overseas. We also have, in Navdhara, I've also asked them to introduce things like platform dance, which is platforming young dancers, and artistic contemporary, which is a new form unheard of in India. Also doing studio performances and workshops, I think, in artistic contemporary, just to create awareness, because it's completely new in India. But overseas, it's considered premium. It's like black tie. It's considered, you know, the creme de la creme. It's funny, in India we haven't even heard of it. So in India, I think we're about 10 or 15 years behind artistically in terms of international contemporary. But we'll get there. We'll keep working.
Yehuda, you have taught in various dance companies internationally. Can you tell us what can one expect from a professional dance course?
Sure. Anybody that wants to study in our institute has to know that classical ballet is the fundamental of everything we do. Without ballet, it's the bread and butter, it's the rice, it's the basic food the dancers need.
What are the opportunities for Indian dancers to travel abroad to study?
Well, this is depend on individual. Dance or art or any performing art, it's not democracy. Some dancers are very talented and some has charisma or whatever special that they will be noticed regardless what country they're coming from. For India, naturally, the young people has beautiful physique. They're proportionally, they're slim, they're long. And I think if they work hard and showing a lot of commitment, definitely they can succeed in America or in any other country. For example, we have two boys here, Manish and Amir. Amir is going to be 16, Manish is 21. And Joffrey Ballet, New York, which is a big deal, school, noticed them and offered them a full scholarship. And I think this is really something that we should be, as Institute for Dance, be very proud of. And I think we can develop a little bit more dancers that will get a lot of opportunity abroad. But specifically, I would like to see more girls, because boys here come to dance, girls don't.
What is important to have a long dance career internationally, and how can we provide that in India?
In order to have a long dance career as a dancer, I think the most important thing is to expose yourself to have a different kind of knowledge. For example, I used to work in a classical ballet company, and I also did a musical like Hair, West Side Story, Cabaret. And also I was in the contemporary dance company as a principal dancer. So as you can probably imagine, I also learned various dance forms, be it ballet, contemporary, jazz, also hip-hop, even I did singing lesson. As an international artist, as a global artist, in order to succeed in the world, you need to have different different knowledge, information, and you have to be able to get all those things into your body and into your mind and expand it and express it as your own language eventually. Let's say if I would be just stuck in, I started from classic ballet. If I only did classical ballet, I think I would have, had a very short career as a ballet dancer only. But even now, as the age of 37, I have a performing opportunity and I'm very grateful about it.